The call came in late, around 3 in the morning. This was a cold, middle-sized town in Oregon, settled by Finnish immigrants. We were dispatched to check on an old man. He'd lived in the same Victorian townhouse since he was 2. People said he and the house had become one, both graying and slowly wearing down with age. The town knew he was suffering from terminal colon cancer and had about 6 months left. The call came from a neighbor. She hadn't seen a light on in a couple of days. We feared the worst. When we arrived, the police car's lights woke up half the street. My partner and I entered through the front door, finding it unlocked. We were immediately greeted by a massive elk head mounted in the entrance. Its creepy, staring eyes made me feel like it was watching our every move. We made our way upstairs and found the old man lying on the floor beside his still-made bed. We checked his pulse. He was gone. Saddened, we called the station and asked for the one paramedic in town to come collect the body. The paramedic arrived, and he needed our help to carry the body downstairs to the ambulance. That's when things stopped being sad and started being wrong. As the 3 of us struggled down the stairs with the weight of the body, I glanced toward the entrance. The elk head was no longer sitting upright. It was turned completely to the side, staring down the hall. Underneath the head, something was written in a wet red print. A S-U-A. My hair stood on end. I knew the word from the Finnish language my grandparents spoke. Asua means stay or remain. I reached out, swiped a little of the red stuff off the wall, sniffed it. It was blood, dripping from the elk's head nose. I yelled up to my partner and the paramedic what I saw. They instantly became panic-stricken. The paramedic yelled, "We need to get this body out of the house now." I ran for the ambulance, but just as my foot left the front porch, the chaos began. All the sirens and lights on the vehicles went off simultaneously, creating a blinding light show and a deafening noise. I hauled open the back of the ambulance and turned to watch my partner and the paramedic. They were just managing to get the stretcher onto the front porch when, synchronously, every window in the house imploded inwards with a deafening racket. I watched as the entire porch collapsed. It didn't give way. It was like the house just gave up. The whole front slumped forward with the sound of tearing wood. Dust scattered everywhere. I ran around the side of the collapse to find my partner shaking and babbling. At first, all he could repeat was, "He sat up, he sat up." Calming him down, I checked the body bag. It was torn to pieces, and the old man's body was sitting up, his face frozen in a rictus scream of terror. Horrified, I threw a tarp over the body. The other ambulance took them away to a trauma center. I was left to file the paperwork. How does one report a house collapsing on its own and a dead body tearing its way out of a body bag? The story has since become a local legend. The house stands as it was left that night. And every night I patrol, I wonder, did the old man die of cancer, or did the house kill him when he tried to leave? And what happens to the souls that are forced to stay? The town had seen better days. Heavy industry had pulled out, leaving behind a neighborhood filled with abandoned buildings that police were routinely instructed to inspect. Snow was beginning to pile up everywhere, and I was settling in for another long, dull night on patrol. There was one house notorious for copper thieves. I was driving my patrol route, passing by around 7 in the evening. It was run down, flaking paint, windows boarded up, just another empty shell with no activity. About 2 hours later, I drove past the house again and instantly knew something was wrong. The back door was wide open. I knew it was not open the last time I passed the house. Logically, someone had broken in again. I pulled over. But when I reached the house, I noticed the first impossible detail. There were no footprints in the fresh snow around the open door. Confused, but not especially worried, I called dispatch, reported the open door, and requested a county sheriff start heading over. I walked up and shone my flashlight inside. The place had been gutted, plaster walls torn down, rubble on the floor. I didn't see anyone, and more importantly, no footprints in the dust on the floor either. With the lack of prints in the snow as well as the floor, I figured the wind might have blown the door open. I was about to close and secure the door when I heard a loud thump from the upper floor and what sounded distinctly like children laughing. I called up to them, but there was no response, only more childlike sounds of playing and laughing. I called into dispatch again to alert them I thought the intruders were just some kids playing. Still, I swore it sounded like children laughing. I carefully made my way through the kitchen to the living room where the stairs were, checking every corner as I went. Many of the floorboards were rotted, and I had to pick my way delicately through the rooms. As I was moving, I heard noises upstairs twice more. Without a verbal response to my inquiries, I started to think it might be an animal. Still, I swore it sounded like children laughing. Figuring I had to check it out anyway, I started to head upstairs to find the source of the sounds. As I did, it immediately became eerily quiet. Upstairs, I heard a small thump in the bedroom to my left. Not sure what I might find in there, I tentatively approached the door and peeked around the side. It was empty, except for a pile of debris and bits of furniture. Oddly enough, there was a new piece of paper on top of the pile. I went over to inspect the paper. It was a page torn out from a children's book. Most disturbingly, though, the picture had a child's drawing of a police officer on it. The hairs on the back of my neck went up, and then I heard the children's laughter. This time, it was right behind me. Spinning around, gun raised, I saw no one was there. I immediately left the house, told dispatch it was a false alarm, and refused to ever return to that house. I drove away, certain that whatever I was chasing didn't leave footprints because it had been inside the house the entire time. This leaves the chilling question that haunts every night I drive. How did they get past the fresh snow with no tracks? And how did they know I was coming in to leave a drawing of me right where I would find it? The call came in while my partner and I were running a quiet night shift in rural Illinois, a suspected break-in at the local morgue. We both exchanged a look, an odd target, but we knew it was likely addicts looking for chemicals. When we arrived, the custodian was waiting outside. He was truly pale. He told us he was mopping the floors, lights off while he worked, when he caught a figure moving in his peripheral vision. He looked up and swore he saw someone run across the main corridor and disappear into a room. He couldn't give a description, but his certainty was unnerving. He was alone, unarmed, and he chose discretion. I told myself it was probably just kids. My partner and I exchanged a skeptical look. It had to be kids, or maybe the guy was just seeing shadows. But his certainty convinced me we had to check. We yelled a verbal warning for anyone inside to show themselves. No response. Only the hollow echo of our own voices bouncing back off the cold tiled walls. We started our sweep, hands on our guns, with the custodian trailing nervously behind us. We cleared the side room systematically, turning the lights on as we went. Labs for analysis, storage, and file rooms. I focused entirely on finding a plausible hiding spot, expecting to find nothing. I opened a door to a darkened room and fumbled for the light switch. It was the empty waiting room. I swept my flashlight across the empty chairs, checking every blind spot. That's when my partner suddenly yelled from the corridor, "Hey, stop! Turn around!" I spun around, weapon up. He was aiming toward the far end of the hallway. "She went around the corner," he said, pointing left. The custodian's voice cracked in desperation. "Officer, that way's a dead end. There is no escape from there." We knew we had her cornered. We advanced slowly, calling out to her to come out and surrender quietly. I moved to the end of the corridor and peered around the corner. I saw her, a woman, standing at the very end. The remaining darkness gave me a rough image of her and her long, light hair. I stepped out to try and talk her down and get her to leave quietly. But the moment she saw me, she hauled open a large, heavy gray door right behind her and bolted through, slamming the door shut. I ran up and found the door locked. I banged on it, calling out, but only silence came back. My partner and the custodian caught up. The custodian's face was pure panic. He whispered, "That door cannot be locked from the inside, officer." "It's impossible." He fumbled with the keys and unlocked it. We went inside, guns raised. We shined our flashlights around. The place was eerie. The air felt strangely cold, even for a morgue. Then I saw it. 2 gurneys in the middle, one covered with a sheet, a body shape underneath. My partner and I knew immediately. That was our suspect's hiding place. As we approached, the stench hit me. It was immediate, overwhelming, and unearthly. It smelled like rot and death, not fear or sweat. My partner pulled the sheet off the body, and there she lay, the woman we had been chasing. Her eyes were wide open. A toe tag hanging off her foot stated she had died 4 days earlier. I'll never forget the silence that followed. She didn't break in. She had been trying to get out. The air in that room hung cold and heavy with the smell of impossible death, and I knew I had just chased something that was utterly beyond my understanding. This is what leaves me awake at night. How did a body that had died 4 days prior gain the strength to run? And how did she lock a door that was impossible to lock from the inside?